Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Lifting's Guide to Galactic History. I know we've brought in a lot of elementals lately to tell tidbits of galactic history, but it seems that they're all lining up to talk. So this time, we have yet another fairy race that wishes to come in to talk. I don't know if this is a race or if this just happens to be an individual representing a race of some sort, but this is who's coming in. She looks like a female queen of some sort, with a crown, not the bad kind, going down over the forehead and down to the nose, very much like how a Viking helmet would be. She looks very much like Scandinavian, Norse, Viking. And the helmet has like rune symbols along the edges of it. So we'll see who this is. She looks very much like a Viking warrior, but she has been telling me she is of a fairy kind. So I've never seen quite like this before, except one other time when it involved a Tuatha. So she very well may be Tuathan. So let's see. Wait a minute. Oh, open heart. All right, thank you. Very strong energy. Calm but strong. Whew. Very loose energy, if this makes any sense. Like you want to float. Greetings. My name must be shortened so that humans can pronounce it. I am Eladria, and I am literally a queen for a tribe of fairy folk who lived in your Scandinavian lands. This is how this involves your galactic history. My kind came from Maldek and also from the Pleiadian star clusters. You would see us as Tuatha De Danann. We have a mixture of races within us, including that of fairy fae folk, of which we took the majority of the DNA. Others are a mix of Pleiadian cultures. There are 5 different kinds of us, but they are mixtures that we do not need to go into thusly. My kind lived on Maldek amongst your Viking gods, you would call them, though they were regular people that just happened to be quite a bit older. We lived amongst them as their brothers, sisters, wives, and mothers, in fact. We are directly related to that particular M line with a thread of E within us. We have a Scandinavian look because we mixed with their kind. And when Maldek exploded, we came to Earth and entered into what you know of as the British Isles through ancient Hyperborea. Though we were also on Atlantis, or should I say Lower Atlantis, because Hyperborea was a component of ancient Atlantis, which is now your hovering sky city that exists above your northern pole. In this, my kind goes back even further in your history. In our history, Maldek is the beginning. In your history, your ancient history that has been recorded, we existed in the Greek mythological period and in some of the Egyptian hierarchies, you would say. Most of our influence, though, however, is integrated into your British Isles. The talk of elves and fairies, though those other fairies that previously spoke on other programs were also influences, our influences were slightly greater. You may have heard of the Tuatha De Danann, the king line of Ireland and Scotland and England. And yes, there is a king line of England that includes our DNA and not just reptilian. But I digress. After the explosion of Maldek, we scattered throughout your galaxy, clustering in the Pleiades and mixing with some of the locals there as well. We also scattered into other galaxies, some that are unknown to you, realms that are unknown to you still, and to other universal constructs, of which are also unknown to you. In your Irish mythology, you have probably heard of the story of the family of Lear, as in Manannán Mac Lir and his family of daughters, mostly swans in your mythology. This is our influence, because this tells the story. If you look this up, it tells the story of some beings, swan muses, that were trapped in time and missed the gateway back to Tir na nOg. Tir na nOg is where I reside. It literally translates in your language to other world of the living. This is actually a parallel universe, or a pocket where we exist. We can observe your kind from this pocket and live out our lives in peace without human interference or us interfering within your lives. There are also other races there, such as fish kind, such as your fish king, who lived in your Irish mythology. He is currently with us as well, amongst his species. Yes, they do come from another universe. Also, some of our kind went to the Sirius star cluster along with some other fish people that interacted with the Dogon tribe. Galactic history-wise, those factions hardly ever spoke. Those breakaways hardly ever spoke to each other. They mixed with the locals and became different species. This is why you have so many variations of elven-looking species out in the galaxy. This is why pointed ears are more prevalent than your own. Some say that this is an awesome trait, and I must agree. But there was a darker end to this spectrum. Some of the ones that went down into your inner earth during the old wars became jaded against humans, blaming humans for taking over sacred lands of the past. Some of my people have awoken in a time not their own, in a place not their own, very much in that is within the Lear history, because the earth changed so drastically after the harvesters took over. The ones that were sleeping or on guard somewhere else did not know of the earthly changes and came out to see the earth had drastically changed and saw humans had taken over the entire world, or so they thought. This angered them. So there are elf species out there that do not have great intent towards humanity. These are fewer and far between, but they do exist within your Scandinavian countries still. They have clustered around the country you know of as Denmark, Norway, Finland, and Iceland. This is the area where Hyperborea connected to the rest of the mainland. Now, I am open to questions.
Yes. Can you tell me, since you were just speaking about people, some of the people were asleep and they woke up and they saw earth changes, besides the harvesters being there, besides noticing a farming, I guess, going on, do you literally mean that there was changes in the environment, in the sky? What type of changes do you mean?
Changes in the sky and topography, as well as human populations. When some of us awoke, we saw that humans had prolificated across the surface of the planet, whereas they were not as populous. They were more equal to that of all the elemental species when we walked the surface of your world. In this, some of the topography had also changed. At the time, we did not know that this was a timeline change as well, as was previously explained to you. But over time, my people began to notice these temporal changes and knew that humans were not responsible, or at least not solely responsible, for these changes taking place. This is what we noticed when we surfaced.
So, just to expand on that a little bit further, I think it's my understanding that when, and again, I just refer to the whole group as the darkness, when the darkness ripped through these multiple boundaries and ripped through multiple places, they brought in energies that literally mixed with the current energies and literally made physical changes, the amalgamation of the two. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Since these harvesters ripped across space-time, they had an effect on the topography of planets and the looks of planets and people and species all over your universe. This is why their invasion was so very dangerous, because they had an effect on time and evolution itself. However, their effects are indeed wearing off, and people are returning back to the base codes of which they came from. This is how people are supposed to look. This is also one of the reasons humanity is evolving currently, because you are reverting as well as evolving back to your original base code set in your genome and in your energy code constructs. This is why some of these things around you are taking place. The influence of the harvesters is wearing off, so most of what they did is being unraveled.
And so this is just a curiosity question, if you know the answer. So the Earth in general, Sophia, and what's going on, is her goal to revert back to the way it was before, or is there still going to be, with the new energies, an even different appearance? I'm just curious.
A little of both, actually. People must be honored in their new memories and in their new lives. To actually revert things back very quickly would be a shock. So we keep the good aspects of this timeline and also revert back to the things that your race has currently lost, ways of being that your race has currently lost and have forgotten. Therefore, when the world of magic completely returns to ascendance, there will be the very differences your kind has implemented on the planet, so there will be a mixture of old and new.
Okay. And going back to what I heard you said, if I heard you correctly, you made a statement that sounded like you said your beginnings were Maldek. Did I actually hear that correctly?
Yes, indeed. We have had a species on Maldek that was our beginnings of evolution. You see, Maldek was a thriving metropolis with many, many life forms and species. The elven kind, which eventually became the Tuatha De Danann, were indeed a species that lived alongside humans and your Norse gods.
And so, again, correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is when the trouble really started to ensue and things were getting very critical before Maldek exploded, there was some kind of intuitive communication from source that some species, and it sounds like yours is one of them, that knew that you needed to, in a sense, evacuate and go. And it sounded like you guys went multiple places. Is that correct?
Yes, we did indeed go multiple places, but we could not all leave until the barrier dropped. Some of us got stuck here on your Earth during the Harvester invasions. However, before the barrier went up, there were some of us that had the intuitive inkling, you would say, to create outposts in other parts of your galaxy. This was done secretively by our kind in your nature areas. We all agreed as a council that we would have a backup plan just in case your Norse gods would fail in their task to guard the system. We are not blaming anyone for what has happened because we realize that this was of source, that this all take place. This, as we would say, is fated, but that is not an accurate term. You would see it as fate and destiny that all these things take place. We were merely following the threads of your source code and were, as you would think, pre-warned about a lot of these things. We have the ability of premonition, and we saw possible timelines then that were more fractalized, and one of those was where Maldek exploded and the system barrier had gone down previously. So, in this, we decided to have an outpost in the Pleiades and an outpost in your Cirrus system and various other unknown and unnamed to you systems. In later years, we will make a reappearance and show everyone our outposts when we know the dangerous AI signal has been vacated.
And it wasn't mentioned earlier, although Tuathan was mentioned and there was an assumption. So I just want to make this perfectly clear. Your species, your race, are pretty similar in height to humans, correct?
Yes, we look like you. Some of us do not have the pointed ears, or we hide them with hair. The one you called Thomas was of our species and is of our species. Even though he is Michael's brother, we have said the House M line and House E lines merged when the Elven species and the Viking warriors took mates with each other.
And just to touch on this for a second, when houses merge, and they merge energetically, the soul family members really can kind of amalgamate and take on qualities or looks if they desire or whatever, and become kind of like a mix of the two. And just, it's a choice, right? It's a choice to say, I choose that I think my representation now belongs with pointy ears if I didn't have them before. But that's what happens when houses merges, right?
Not always right away. It would be more or less in your genetic family tree. Yes, there are traits that do merge and other ones do emerge if houses do merge. But it is not necessarily an instantaneous thing like some of your New Age community thinks. This ruse has been spread by not only some of your reported guides with agendas, which are galactics with agendas, but others that have misinterpreted how these energy soul houses work. It is actually an integration of both genetics and energy, very much as if you had two fruit trees that hybrided together and created new fruits. There would be aspects of both, but then there would be a new flavor or taste to that fruit. This is what happened when E and M merged.
Okay, thanks. That's a great clarification. So I am curious at the time back in galactic history, because I know Michael or Mikhail, as however you want to say his name, he doesn't really care which way, when he was talking about attempts to go back to stop Maldek from happening, and everyone realized this is a fixed moment in time, you can't do it. You know, he was always very surprised that even when people went back in time with the knowledge to not let this occur, let's say a former part of themselves was actually there being influenced, the ones who came in to try and stop it were still influenced because it was a fixed moment in time and there was no way. And he would always say, even reflecting on it now, it's kind of an amazing thing that a person couldn't stop themselves. They fell under no matter how hard they tried not to. I am curious about your culture and your people. When you saw this happening, were you as susceptible, your group as susceptible as some of the other groups to the influencing, or were you somehow able to just kind of step back, but again, not be able to stop it? What actually happened with your group?
My group, like many others, did fall prey to the susceptibility. You see, Maldek, unfortunately, through quantum entanglement, and because time all exists as one, was already entangled in the Nibiru conflict long before that planetoid ever made an appearance in your realm. As I said, this was more of a fated thing, as you have noticed, a fixed point in time. So, some of our people that became embroiled and entangled in this war and did not leave when we got the intuitive inkling to do so, became entangled in this. The ones that thought they could unentangle the unentangleable, they became embroiled and became some of your screaming souls of Maldek, of whom we are still finding some of our people floating amongst your cosmos. It is not just isolated to your system. Those souls drifted to other parts of your galaxy, not just in your system. It's ripples and waves across time and space. The screaming souls have been known to even appear in Andromeda.
So have you found all of your people who were lost?
No, not currently. Some have entered into other reincarnation cycles on other worlds that the harvesters now inhabit. Not many, more like a handful. These are being dealt with because they are smaller planetoids, and we have noticed other races that have been ensnared on them as well, some of which are indeed our own.
So, when you left, it sounds like to me, again, I don't want to assume, so correct me if I'm wrong, you heeded the call to leave, but there was residual, and I asked this because, I had asked the ancient Mayans as well, who had experienced this. How long did it actually take your group to, when they were able to escape away from it, to actually, let's say, recover from it? I don't know a better way to say it.
Our recovery period still continues because you humans would call it post-traumatic stress disorder. This is why we also hide beneath the surface of your world and other parts of your galaxy, because we do fear some of the darkness threads that still remain, because we know even if one remains, it can grow into a storm or create a new stain, as others would say. So this is how this has affected us. When this signal disappears, and it can be canceled out with a signal of equal weight in the positive polarity, so the AI signal is not completely 100% permanent, it can be canceled out. When this occurs, and when this stops arcing across time and space, we indeed will make an appearance face to face once again. But know this, we also have done so in some of your sci-fi constructs, very much like some of your other fairy kind. We have appeared, and we do have influences in your science fiction showing what we look like and how we act. We have appeared in some of your costume settings. Therefore, we would not be noticed. You see, we carry an equal, if not slightly higher vibration than yourselves, very much like your ancient Mayans. They are higher, yes, and do manipulate their density, yes, but we also do the same. We can do the same, and we will be one of the races that people see in later years, face to face, out in the open.
Oh, that's great. So I guess if I'm hearing you correctly, persons like yourself and the ancient Mayans may be some of the first other races that we actually meet. Is that what you're alluding to?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So,
And have
met, because you've been mingling amongst people already.
Yes, we are already among you, but as I've said, we are in hiding and in also what you would call holographic wrappings. Some of your other tribes of Nordic Pleiadians, as well as Tuathans, other races of Tuathan do the same.
So it seems to me as we have run across different races and we move forward to pushing us back onto the appropriate timeline where the overage is eradicated, basically. Every group has seemed to have their own they either appointed themselves to have a particular function or mission in aiding in this, or have collaborated and decided. I'm just curious. Now, I know you said you've showed up in movies. That's more to me of just disclosure we're here. But is there something specific function-wise that you and your group are championing to help with all of this?
Yes, in a fashion. We are championing information exchange. We are championing the changing of energies and the collusion, you would say, of nature and humanity. See, we exist in nature, we revere nature and are a part of nature. We even have ceremonies and looks very much like you would say, Lord of the Rings elves, and act very much in a similar fashion. We have city structures that are hidden holographically within mountains and rock faces and woods, very much like those in those movie structures. And yes, we did have a role in giving that author, you would call him token, information about our people. We have trickled it through the media in such a way, but energetically, yes, we are actually showing our true languages, our true looks, and our ceremonial practices, as well as what our weaponry and armor look like in various games and movies. They are all accurate to within a certain degree of human creativity. Now, do we interact face-to-face with these directors on occasion? Yes, indeed we do, when there is not as much cabal intrusion. Yes, they too also have influences. This is why you have both polarities in movies. It is not just us that integrate things into movies, however. The ancient Mayans and other groups do as well. We are just saying wherever you see our people included, this is where we have influence. This is why those movies did so well, is because we interacted not only mentally with the director and the people that fueled the money, but we were also on the sets themselves in what humans would perceive as an invisible faction or fraction of the time. But in fact, we were in a slightly different frequency, sending our observations and our cultural ideas into the influences of those movies and others like them. So this is where we have a majority of our influences, and also as muses like the other fairies do, writing poetry, creating artwork, and also, as you would say, paintings, drawings, and the like.
That's nice. So, and again, being on an energetic level, you know, you being there on the sets, you imparting this information, that energy is carried into the film and radiates out. It may bring people out a lot of joy, a lot of awe, but on an energetic level, it's actually doing more than that, correct?
Yeah. Yes, that is indeed correct. That is the primary reason we do this. We spread that energy through the electronics, not in an AI fashion, but to combat the AI influences. So humans are more free of those influences and free to choose their own path. We see it this way. The AI influence strips away free will. We merely give it back by showing our influences and our energy and presenting that to mankind.
That's really important for people to understand, because I think if people really think about it, when they go and see these movies, they always leave there in themselves, either sometimes wanting to put themselves in the movie, but also their brains start to explore, their brains start to think of different possibilities, different whatever, and they could think they're just having fun, but it's really more than that. It's opening them back up to their imagination and to the possibilities, and I don't think people really understand the importance of that energetic flow.
No, they do not understand it, but they do feel it every time our people and other ET species, you would call them, have influence. They know something is different, and they know something that they're attracted to. These are aspects of the realm that we inhabit within Tir na Nog as well. That particular realm has a lot of green pastures and blue waters, very much like your New Zealand environment did for the movies of Lord of the Rings. This is how that environment looks. That is the energy, vibrancy that people are feeling. Also, the reason I bring up New Zealand is because there are aspects of Agartha and aspects of our people that have influence on that land. This is why it looks and appears and feels the way that it does.
Okay, that's very, very interesting. So we can kind of wrap this up. I'm just going to give you the floor. Anything more about galactic history that you want people to know, or any last words?
Yes, in this time of confusion, you find yourselves with a plethora of information that is put at your feet. In this, you see all of these stories about your overlords, such as the reptilians, the winged beings, the Anunnaki, whatever you want to call them. In this, just know they are bloating their presence on your planet through your media and through some of your movies as well, and fictional television as well as documentarial agendas. They want people to see them as gods so that they can reconstitute themselves. They overbloat themselves, very much like a predator would while confronting prey. This is how they are reacting. Humans are backing them into a corner because humans are evolving, something they are terrified of, and they are reacting like a wounded animal. They are presenting themselves in a more bloated fashion than they actually are. Yes, they have the AI influences, and they have a minimal physical complement here. The majority of the races are, of course, yourselves, humanity, my people, the Tuatha, Nordic Pleiadian, Native Pleiadian, and Agarthan factions, and various other races like yourselves that only wish to help you. Some other ones have their agendas, yes, but the original harvesters, we are negating those that are of other races that have agendas. You will deal with that when the day comes. But the ones that started this mess to begin with are fewer and far between. There is no Nibiru. It is dead and ash. You are the current expressions for the current moment. You are the ones that will drive this clandestine energy into the next age, where these other species will also have a wake-up call. This is what I wish to bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, and what a wonderful message. And I really hope people take this last bit that you said in and really think about it and really feel a little bit more empowered. So thank you.
Yes, you are most welcome. My name is Alandria, and I am what you would perceive as a fairy or elven species. Thank you. Oh. All right. Wait, everything's more vibrantly colored. I look at everything now here. It's like everything, all the green is just popping out at the moment when I'm looking around. That's what their species brings to the table. They make all these colors just pop like this, you know. Like the greens here are all like right in your face. Even the paint on some of the trees they put in there is popping out. Even the different colored rocks and everything are coming out. That's the kind of thing you expect from elves or species like that. That's what you think of. Like Lord of the Rings is what you think of when you think of these people. They are dressed that way, they look that way, they are very accurately depicted in the Lord of the Rings movies, both warrior and magician. And also the accompanying video games where elves are in there. So if you are drawn to these particular people, you are more than likely an incarnated version of one of them. And spent time either on Maldek or in their realm of Tir na Nog. So with that, I think we have ended this show for today. So thank you everybody for watching another episode of the Lifting's Guide to Galactic History. Goodbye everybody.
Bye.